Our top focus remains the crisis brewing in Sri Lanka. Amid countrywide protests, Sri Lanka's parliament has now reconvened today, and this is the first session since a state of emergency was imposed. Sri Lanka's economic crisis has also triggered a political one. According to sources, the Sri Lankan president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, has said that he will not resign, but that he is ready to hand over the government to whichever party proves it has the majority 113 seats in parliament. The parliament today is also likely to vote to ratify the state of emergency, which has been declared in the country. Opposition parties have announced their intention to vote against extending the ordinance. Meanwhile, a key coalition partner, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, has decided to quit the president's government as of now, and the party has further decided to function as an independent group in parliament. The group includes 14 Sri Lankan Freedom Party parliamentarians. Today's proceedings in Parliament follow a tumultuous couple of days where the President, once powerful ruling coalition, suffered a string of defections. But then the overture to the opposition parties to form a unity government was also rejected, who then called for his resignation. Now, for a better understanding about what's happening in Sri Lanka, our correspondent Dasuni Athora is now joining us live from Colombo. Dasuni, thank you so much for joining us. My first question to you, we've been tracking the crisis. It began as an economic crisis. We've been seeing massive protests, some of which turned violent in Sri Lanka. And now this parliament session, of course, is crucial. Calls are growing for the president's resignation. Tell us more.
Hi, good morning, Priyanka. Yes, in fact, the Parliament's first session for the day is currently underway. Now, this was a scheduled session, I must keep in mind. And from what we know so far, a lot of MPs of the government that represents the SLPP have sort of voiced their interest and stated their interest to remain independent in Parliament. So if we look at our numbers so far, about 41 MPs of the government, as of right now, have expressed their interest to remain independent. Now, this is a clear indication that the SLPP-led government has now clearly lost its two-thirds majority. However, a simple majority needs 113 seats. So we will be monitoring the situation as the day goes on to see whether the SLPP still has a simple majority of governance.
Absolutely. We'll be tracking those updates. Let's talk about the people of Sri Lanka in all of this. That's a big story here, of course. Even as this political drama is underway, there is an economic crisis. The country has run out of fuel, paper. It's seeking aid from other countries, including India. And now I believe the medical authorities have also declared a health emergency amid this crisis. How are the things on ground as of now?
Yes, as I've mentioned earlier as well, I think people are growing more and more frustrated and disappointment with this government, because for months on end, the people of this country have been in quite a lot, from power that exceeded up to 13 hours to fuel shortages to even gas shortages and sometimes even commodities. Right now, the people momentum is that people are really taking to the streets to voice out and let out their frustration. And that's what we saw last night, where mass protests of millions of Sri Lankans taking to the streets across various parts of the island was observed. And in certain instances, yes, these protests did turn out violent, and tear gas and water cannons were used specifically at protest locations in front of MPs' houses. So it is clear to see that the people are growing tired, and they've sort of had enough of the 225 parliamentarians, along with the president's-led government, for leading this country into this situation right now.
Just very quickly, a follow-up to that. Is it likely at all that the president will resign?
So far, from what we know, the president has not expressed his interest to resign, but however, he has made it clear that he will be giving the power of governance to any party that can formulate 113 seats in parliament, which is the minimum that is needed to form a majority in parliament. So yes, the president will not be resigning, but he is looking at the option of handing over to whoever forms a government.
Dasuni, thank you so much for all those updates. We'll continue to track all the updates coming in from Sri Lanka. Thanks for joining us. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.